Hey guys, Luke here from Ported Gaming, coming at you again with another round of ALR Bronze. We are here in Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix, and for once you have caught me on my first flying lap of qualifying. That is correct. I was able to actually get my first lap of qualifying recorded. So go me, finally 3 weeks into this season, I finally have my first lap recorded here in Japan. Now, I am not feeling particularly confident coming into this weekend. I had improved a bit as time had gone on, but I wasn't feeling particularly confident. As you've seen there, I've had a massive loss on the rear end, so that is already exacerbating issues. I came into this track not expecting much. The curbs are very dangerous here. It's a very flying track, a lot of gravel traps, a very old style track, and I was very nervous that I would put it in the wall or spin it into the gravel. And as you've just seen, I've already made a mistake on my first flying lap, so I know this lap is not going to be that great. But it is a banker lap. That's what you always have to set out for your first lap in qualifying. You are just there to do a banker lap. It's not the final lap. You are going to improve hopefully on your second run, so you shouldn't be too worried at the moment. So coming now down into Spoon, the lap's basically a write-off. It's just about getting to the end, so at least I have a delta to compare to when it comes to my second flying lap into Spoon. Not too bad. The rest of the lap is feeling pretty good. It's just that big moment during the S section that has really sort of caught me off guard and scared me. Coming out up over the crest of the hill towards 130R, second sector split time, and I am indeed very well up on the lap of LRS. He hasn't set a great lap time. I'm 9 tenths up on him. It did flash purple in the bottom left part of the screen, but obviously this game does give up purple sectors like no tomorrow. Slightly lose the rear end out of the final few corners. Up to the line, it's going to be a 29.3 to start it off. Not a great lap. I was well into the 28s in practice, so I know that I've got a lot of time to gain, especially in that first sector. We saw that massive mistake from me, so I'm not massively worried at this moment in time. P9 for now, but I know there's a hell of a lot of time in the bag. So an okay first lap. If I didn't have that mistake, I would be doing in a lot better situation. As you can see here, coming through the first sector, I'm already gaining time on my first split, and this is a lap that I'm not even using any ERS or pushing, so the first lap was truly not that great. So first lap in the bin, lap P9, what can I do on my second run, which will be starting right about now. Now, we catch me now, 50 seconds in the clock, so we are at the end of the session. This will be it for my one and only final lap time. It is all riding on this. Rocket Lee has gone to the top with a 28.2, which is a very quick lap for this division. I have no illusions under that. Rocket Lee has got pole in China last week. He looks like he's favourite to get pole again, but what can I do? Can I do anything to stir the pot? Can I push myself potentially into that pole position equation coming down the start finish rate? Again, looking pretty decent, just about climbing above my first set time, but it's only just start finish rate. It is nothing important. My first part of the S's aren't amazing. I'm a little bit down on my time, and I'm very cautious through here, keeping well away from the curb that threw me off. But look at that time gain, half a second, 6 tenths, 7 tenths potentially as we come to the end of sector 1. I have made a massive improvement, and seeing that level of green is a massive boost of confidence. You know that this lap is going to be a lot better if you keep it together, and I'm just a little bit up on Dan in P7, but I'm 6 tenths up on my previous lap. I'm keeping it clean, a nice exit out of Degner 2, 7 tenths up to the mark as we head into the hairpin. I'm feeling pretty damn confident. 7 tenths gets me well into the 128, slight flick of oversteer as I come through the hairpin, but not too bad. Still 7 tenths up. I was 8 tenths through the mid corner, not too bad. Rocket Lee getting well out of my way there. Coming now down again into Spoon, 7 tenths up as we head into Spoon. I keep about that delta up. Stake Spoon a little better, which gives me a much better run down this long straight towards 130R. 7.5 tenths. Climbing. The time is gaining. I might be even getting a little bit of a very distant slipstream from that car ahead. A purple sector 2. I am absolutely brimming with confidence as we come into the last chicane, and this chicane was the bane of my life for this entire evening. I lose 2-3 tenths coming into the chicane. I have a step oversteer on exit, and it's only good enough for P5, just behind my teammate Smithy. It is a good lap for me. I was very happy with the improvement. I think I needed to improve, especially with that sector 1, but it's only P5, and we are half a second off Rocket Lee. Now, without that mistake at the final chicane, potentially I would have seen myself go up to P2. It would have been the front row potentially, but that is all I could really gather at this point. So Rocket Lee is really sort of the main opposition. He gets pole. That's 2 poles on the bounce for him now. He got it in China. He gets it again in Japan. P5 for me. I'm happy with that. It's an okay sort of place to start. but I know that I have the pace. As always, quali pace is my one weakness on this game. Race pace is far stronger for me. Here I am, just dicking around a bit with the different strategies. I'm going to do the one stop, medium to hard. I go check, see what everyone around me is doing. Corey, who's starting right behind me in P6, is on hards. We have a few other drivers on hards, but crucially, everyone around us is on mediums. So again, quite a bit of uniformity from the ALR people around me. So I know that everyone's going to be starting on mediums. No one's going to be horribly slow. No one's going to be horribly quick either. Onto the formation lap, confirmation there that everyone around us is on the medium tyres, apart from Corey, who's behind on the hards. So, end of the formation lap. I've done my side to lap. I know that this is going to be a long race. I've started on mediums potentially because it being Japan, because it being a very dangerous track, and because it's ALR Bronze in the nicest way possible. I do not want to risk an early safety car. I would start on the hards normally, but I don't want to risk it. 0.4 away from the mark on the grid box, a lot better than I did in China when I got disqualified. Not quite amazingly, but I will take it. Waiting for the rest of the grid to form up. Got the 4 cars ahead of me, including my teammate. Hungry Stars in third, Dynamo Dan in second, and of course Rocket League on pole position. 5 red lights are coming on now. This is it. The Japanese Grand Prix is now officially underway, and we have a pretty decent launch. My teammate gets a great launch. Styles has a lot of wheel spin. You might have seen the tracks from the grid. He gets a lot of wheel spin. He gets overtaken by my teammate immediately. It's slightly left hang out to dry. I get on this inside. I touch my teammate slightly in the rear, but I'm ahead of the Haas. So I've made up 1 position off the grid already. Rocket League has kept the lead. Dynamo Dan is second, Smithy third, and I am up to fourth. Hungry Stars had that quite poor start, a lot of wheel spin on the exit of the pit box, and I am now up to P4. So that is good. Good start, but obviously it's lap 1 of 27. The race is not won at this stage. It's not won until the end of lap 27. So at the moment, I am just going to sit behind, see what happens. Rocket League has a pretty good run through the 2 Degners. I'm scared for a second that Dynamo Dan may fall out of DRS range. He does not, thankfully. I get right up the posterior of my teammate into the hairpin. So at the moment, we are sitting more or less line astern. DRS won't be enabled until the end of this lap. We will not be using it for the first time until the end of the following lap, given the location of the only DRS zone on this track down the start-finish straight. So coming through Spoon, it's all pretty nipped and tuck. It's all pretty clear cut at the moment. No major incidents. No one's retired. No one's crashed. No safety cars. No VSCs at the moment. But that's okay at the moment. Coming now down towards 130R. Half a second behind Smitty. Look behind me. Stars is closing in on me. And one thing that I noticed a lot in this first stint with Stars behind me, he would close a lot coming down here through into the Triangle Casino. He would gain a lot out of Spoon through 130R. Really getting quite close to me. I'd get very nervous every lap that you get close to me. Never really got close enough to particularly pull off a move into that corner, but it is pretty scary to see a Haas bearing down on you, especially into 130R. A really fast corner in these modern F1 cars. Not really much of a corner, but when you have someone on your outside or someone trying to overtake you, that corner suddenly becomes a lot more terrifying, because if you make contact and you're spun off to the left, you're in the wall. If you're spun off to the right, you're not necessarily in the wall, but your race is well and truly ruined. Now, coming through Sector 1 for the second time, we've all stayed within a second of each other. Styles falls off a bit in Sector 1, so I was really quite convinced he was running a low downforce setup. Coming into the Degners again, purple Sector 1, but it does not mean much, slightly running wide, but again, nothing really happening this stage of the race. It's lap 2. ALR Bronze, we're not the smartest bunch in the shed, but we are not stupid. We all know that there's no real point pushing, because we're not really going to have a chance to pull away from each other, because we all have quite equal race pace. So you'll see the top 6 do start to sort of close up together. We do start pulling away a little bit from Jinner in the McLaren, who I believed at the start of the season would be my main title rival. Obviously, he didn't race in Australia round 1. He did race last week in China, had some unfortunate incidents. He did get a point because he got the fastest lap, and in ALR Bronze, if you get the fastest lap, you get the point no matter where you finish. As long as you finish, it could be dead last, you will get the point. So he did get the point for the fastest lap, so he's off the mark, but he is already struggling at this point in time. So I still haven't quite sussed out who my main sort of rivals are. Rocket League is really quick in qualifying. Dynamo Dan and Dan are there and thereabouts. You can see Dan is P6. But the main thing that's really helping me at the moment in this championship is the fact that these guys are making so many mistakes. They're spinning, they're hitting each other, and they keep making mistakes. Now, as you can see, I've not got Rocket League in front of me. Hello, Rocket. He has fallen down from first to P3. That's because Smithy and Dynamo Dan have both used DRS to pass him, and there we go. Then it is, it just he's down to P3. doing a lot of energy saving is Rocket League, but he's not really sort of being dropped by the top two. Likewise, we're not really struggling. As you can see, it's the herd is slightly thinning out. The people behind aren't quite as close as they were. We will start to see the top six will break away from the main bit of the field, and we will see that not really a lot changes. Dynamo Dan is overtaken by my teammate, so it's now a Sauber first and a Sauber fourth, which is already a strong result for the team, considering we are already leading the constructors coming into this weekend. So really strong pace from Smithy. He's done a really good job here. Japan clearly likes the track, and he's been very quick. So props to him. I have a really good feeling about this relationship we're going to have, this partnership we're going to have, pushing to try and get the constructors title, pushing to try and get the joint constructors title, because Sauber in ALR Gold, the top division, have some very quick drivers. So Sauber definitely favourites at the moment for the joint constructors championship. But at the moment, there's not really much going on for me. I'm sort of watching everyone jockey around. Smithy loses the lead down to P3, Rocket League back up to P2. But it's all really nothing sticking at the moment. Slight yellow flag for an incident behind that was with Jinner. And you can see now that McLaren has held up a lot part of the train, because we are now, the top six have very much bolted. And we are now in this DRS train. Not a lot's happening for me. I'm just sitting quite content watching these guys all overtake each other, get re-overtaken. I'm not falling out of the train. I'm not struggling with tyres or any ERS. You can see I have a lot of battery. I burn a lot coming out of the spoon, because again, Styles gets right behind me. He never goes for a move into that corner, but he always gets right behind me. So I always sort of burn in response to him getting a bit close to me, and then tend to save through Sector 1, which is we were all doing. Throughout this entire race, every single driver would save through Sector 1, which was quite funny, because it meant that if I slightly fell behind out of DRS, because I really struggled through the last corner compared to everyone else, that I could just keep it in medium through Sector 1, and I would catch back up, because they're all sitting in none. But we're all just jockeying for position, sussing each other out. So we know Hungry Styles behind is very quick in a straight line. We know that none of us have the speed to break through. As you can see, there's a slight mistake through Spoon. Styles closes up, but nothing doing there. I fall away a little bit. I'm about 6/10 back. So although I do keep it in none this lap, I am very wary of the fact that I don't quite want to lose DRS. 7/10 is the gap. 6/10. They all Constantine it up into the hairpin, so I'm not actually losing DRS to any of them. Again, slightly rearward with the exit. My rears do not like that corner, and we're on to lap 12. So at this point, it's been a very boring, quite quiet first stint of the race, but my tyres are starting to slightly go off. Nothing too bad. My tyre temperatures are very much normal, but obviously, as you do, you have a lot of different grip situation as you feel out the tyres. So lap 12, I've slowed us back down to normal speed. There's the tyre wears, they're all in about the mid-40s, which is perfectly fine. It's not like we're hit 60% and there's a warning light. As we come now down, Rocket League is leading, Dynamo down second and Smithy third. Rocket League has pulled a bit. He hasn't quite broken DRS to Dynamo Dan, but he's really pulled quite a lot. And because of that, in response, Dynamo Dan and Smithy both dive into the pit lane. Now, I could not follow them in naturally, because I would be held up behind my teammate. I still had DRS on my teammate, but he's in the pits, and a lot of the others have pitted. In fact, it is just me and Rocket League who have stayed out of the top six. Everyone else has pitted. Everyone else is going for the undercut. We have Corey now up to third in the Williams. He's on hards. He is not yet pitted naturally. So it is me and Rocket. As you can see, I've left my ERS in medium, because A, I have a lot of battery, and B, I really want to try and close into Rocket League, because if I don't get DRS on Rocket League this lap, I will pit, because there's no point me staying out. And as you can see, I've gained a lot. The gap was 1.6, it's down to 1.3. So I'm really pushing to try and get back into the DRS of Rocket League. Not using too much battery, because I don't know what the situation is going to be on pit exit. But I am very much trying to close up to the Williams. I get within 1.2. Unfortunately, go a little bit deep into the hairpin. It slightly skewers my exit, and I lose a good 10th, nearly 2, out of that corner. And at this point, I go to my engineer. There's not much point. I put it in overtake, put it into hot lap. I'm not catching onto the back of the Williams. We agree at this point, it's probably best to pit. It limits the undercut from the others to only 1 lap. That means I only have 1 lap to get closer to us. So we both agree that we might as well pit. So I do burn some more battery just to try and speed into the pit lane, get a decent in lap. So I will be pitting this lap. Now, will Rocket League pit? That is a big question. We've all been sort of duped by the guys around us. They've all pitted before us. Will Rocket and I pit? I know I'm pitting. I'm imagining that Gaming Infinity behind me, who's also on mediums, is going to pit. There it is. Once I saw that Rocket was going to pit, it was absolutely imperative that I followed him in because I didn't want to get undercut by anyone else. Nice and cautious into the pit lane. Don't want to get that dreaded 10-second penalty because that would be a race ruiner because I'd have to pit again to get rid of it. Into the pits I go, into my pit box, optimal turn in. Gaming Infinity picks up that 10 seconds, which is why I was very careful into the pit lane. I do very nice on the blocks. Pit stop's good and my exit is good, but where are we going to be in comparison to the other guys? Into the pits, out we go, and I can't see them yet. They haven't passed us. There is my teammate. There is Dynamo Dan, and critically, Dan and Hungry Styles, the guys that were right behind me during the first hit, they're nowhere. They're 2.5 seconds off the back of me. I don't know what's happened. I think they got stuck in traffic, my engineer said, but these guys have fallen off the back again. So it's now just a four-way battle for the lead. Rocket Lee, Smithy, Dynamo Dan, and myself. And critically, Rocket Lee has kept the lead, which means that Dynamo Dan and Smithy and Marty did not have a strong outlap. So my major fear, being that I've been horrifically undercut and I'd come out well behind the guys, has actually really hasn't come into fruition, even while we're warming up these tyres, which happens very quickly at Suzuka, as you can imagine through the high lateral corners of the S's. I am pretty much still right behind him. So that makes me feel a lot better, makes me feel a lot more confident. On to lap 15, and we're now back in this DRS train. No one has undercut each other. We tried, they've tried. We are all still in a massive four-way fight for the lead, four-way DRS train, and critically we are pulling away. Dan does get closer during the second and third sector, but obviously down the start-finish straight, I am able to pull away, and Hungry Stars, in fact, does overtake Dan through 130R. Gino sets the fastest lap of the race. Gino in the McLaren, he's pitted as well. And Jinnah has a second lease of life on those hard tyres, and he does, in fact, have a really strong recovery drive. We'll see where he finishes at the end of the race. Coming now into 130R again, I nearly am out of DRS range, but I, of course, keep it within. These guys are all jockeying. It's all, again, nothing is meaningful happening right now. There's no meaningful overtakes, no overtakes that are going to change the outcome of this race, because none of us have the pace to pull away in any of these sectors. So into lap 17. The end of lap 17, there is Jinnah. You can see at the top left, he does have a 3-second penalty for track limits, does have the fastest lap at the moment. Corey takes it because Corey has pitted onto the mediums. So Jinnah is doing really well. Now, this is a really interesting moment in the race. I'm not sure what quite happens here. He looks like Smithy runs wide. I don't see much sort of dust kicked up. He runs wide. He does try and keep ahead of me. There's a little bit of contact there between the two Saubers into Degner 1. But I was clear, I was ahead of him, I gave him enough room, he didn't spin, thankfully, so Smithy has made a mistake, he's now to the back of the DRS train, which is unfortunate for him, but he will be still right behind us for the rest of the race, so it is not a massive detrimental issue, it's just unfortunate that he has lost out to Rocket Lee and Dynamo Dan, but that, on the flip side, puts us up into third position, so we are now the third in the DRS queue. We now can look at the lead a little bit more. We can think about making some overtakes, potentially leading the train for a couple of laps, getting that clean air into our engine, getting the clean air to make sure that we don't get any sort of negative impacts on our tyres. That clean air is quite important on F124. So we have a little bit more freedom now, but we still have our teammate right behind us. Lee tries to let Dan through before the DRS line. The DRS line is very shortly after 130R. It fails miserably. You can see he cuts the corner to try and get a good exit. Unfortunately for Rocket Lee, he's kind of bowls that up. And as you can see, Dan has DRS, Rocket Lee does not. So I go, thank you, Rocket Lee. I'll take P2. Smitty as well goes for the move, and Rocket Lee goes from first to fourth. A very ill-judged move there for Rocket Lee, but now I'm second. So now I have even more freedom because it's just Dynamo Dan ahead of me. Dan's DRS light is flashing. He's clearly burned to make sure he got a good exit. I'm also going to save because although I don't have low battery by any means of the imagination, I'm really strong with my EOS management in this race. I don't want to be all over the back of Dynamo Dan. Don't want to hit him. Don't want to get stuck onto him. Don't want to do anything that could potentially damage my front wing or spin me out. So I also go to none, and we are playing with 80% battery. It will be 90%, of course, given the layout of Suzuka. It's very easy to save batteries. A lot of sort of heavy braking zones, not a lot of high speed, and you don't lose a lot of battery if you're in medium. So that's not too bad. So I'm behind the Red Bull now. We still have the 4 cars in the fight for the lead. So really, it's really exciting, and that's what I'm loving about this season of ALR Bronze. Every race that I've been in, there has been a fight for the lead, and it's not just one guy fighting for the lead or 2 guys. It's 3, 4, 5. I mean, you know, in Australia it was just me and Rocket Lee, but we had Dan at one point fighting. We have these DRS trains, and it's really nice to see this level of competition. That it is down to strategy. It's down to who makes the smart choices that people are going to win this race. on the back of Dynamo Dan coming now into this final corner. Again, I really struggled to do this final corner. So if it offends you, I apologise deeply. I really struggled with this last chicane, could never get it right. I don't think out of any of the laps that I took in this race or qualifying, I ever really got that corner right. I've got my teammate right behind me. Dynamo Dan trying to break the DRS or break the toe. I'm going to go around the outside, and I will admit, I've got the replay of it here. This is probably one of my best ever overtakes on F1 24. I got the actual overtake replay here with with it, and it was just an amazing overtake. My engineer was like, that is actually a really good overtake. I get nearly onto the grass, but I'm able to just eke around the outside of Dynamo Dan into the lead. So I'm now, for the first time this race, leading the Japanese Grand Prix. And considering coming into this, I wasn't feeling massively confident. I did feel a lot more confidence once I did some proper practice. I'm really happy. I thought China and Japan would be my really weak tracks. Got P3 in China at the moment, leading the Japanese Grand Prix, but we still have 4 cars right behind me, all very quick cars. However, that 4 becomes 3. You may have just seen in the top left, yellow flag. Rocket Lee spins out at the hairpin. He says after the race that he's got a little bit too much of the gas pedal, just lost it and spins around. I've now got Dynamo Dan right behind me. I've got no DRS. I'm not particularly pushing. I go into none. I'm quite low on battery, and as I've said, there's no real point fighting. It's lap 21 or 27. Sure, we're getting to the crunch end of the Grand Prix, but we're not going to be able to break away from each other. Even if I kept the lead through this section, I wouldn't be able to break away, because sure, I could go medium and potentially push. I'm not going to have the battery these guys have. So I might as well play with them, play into the game, mirror them, do what they do, and hope that at the end I get rewarded for it. But we're back now into P3. We've got Hungry Stars, who's done a really good job. He's about 2 seconds off. He has closed in after that, obviously, botched undercut attempt. I'm not quite sure what happened to Dan Dan. He's gone. I think he might be fighting with Jinnah. Jinnah up to P5, but still, as I said, have that 3-second penalty. Jinnah has some really good, strong race pace at the end of this race so far. So good job from Jinnah. A shame, of course, that he's been let down by some poor racing. I think last week in China wasn't really his fault, but it is what it is. You're dealt the hand you're dealt with, and Jinnah has had a very strong second half of the Japanese Grand Prix. Slightly mess up spin there, not going to lie. I slightly mess up, and again, I don't do it too badly this lap, but you may start to see as we get towards the end of the race, as these hard tyres start to go off, I do start sliding out of spoon, but give my engineer a heart attack. He keeps taking these really sharp intakes of breath every time I lose the rear end. It's quite funny almost. I kept giving him a heart attack thinking I would crash out, but we're now heading on to lap 22. Not long left in this Japanese Grand Prix. I've got my teammate. He's going to overtake Dynamo Dan. He's all over Dynamo Dan's posterior with DRS, and so he's going to go up the inside of the Red Bull. I've dropped back a little bit. I'm still within DRS range. There's no major fear. I've got half a battery left. If there was any issue that I thought I might fall out of DRS range, I would just simply burn, and that would be the end of it. As we move on through the S's, go back into medium. I do use a little bit of medium, a little bit more battery, just to make sure I do keep right in this DRS train. Styles is kind of closing. He's closing through the rest of the lap, but as you can see, the gap is about 1.7, 1.8. It goes down to 1.5. It then goes up to about 2 seconds because of the DRS. So he's gaining the rest of the lap, but being in the DRS of the top 2 is helping us all pull away from Hungry Styles and, to an extent, Jinnah. So it's just us 3 now heading on to lap 23. And we are now closing in again. So I've had a pretty decent run out of spoon for once. The gap is 4 tenths. It was at some point 7 or 8 tenths. It's down to 4 coming into the chicane here. I think people took a lot more of that left curb than I did. I know that's quite easy to get a warning there, so that's why I sort of stayed away from it. I think I was a little bit too cautious, a bit too timid. But we've got Smithy going up the inside Dan. I want to follow him through, but he just doesn't. He goes into none, and I'm very much cucked by the fact that Smithy's in front of me. I don't want to go 3 wide, so Smithy takes the lead. He didn't do it on purpose. He didn't try to stop me getting past. I think he was just more focused on himself, trying to go into none. So unfortunately there, I would love to have got second place, but it doesn't massively matter. Dynamo Dan is still P2, and I am in P3. So we are on to lap 24. So we got to the crunch time, because if you think about it, the last lap, heading on to the last lap, so from lap 26 to 27, that's the last time you're going to get DRS in this race. So you have to be thinking about, okay, what games am I going to play? Am I going to let someone through? Am I going to try and overtake someone? What is going to happen? Now, you may notice that yellow flag on the start finish straight. That start finish straight is Rocket Lee retiring from the race. So yeah, Rocket Lee unfortunately retires from the race after making that mistake earlier in the race. So really quite sad for him, but that's not the only thing that's sad. goodbye to Dynamo Dan. He is gone, spinning out at Spoon. Really unfortunate. It really breaks my heart to see that, and I mean that in wholeheartedly. We want as many people fighting for this as possible. He loses it through Spoon, and that is him done. And I very nearly lost the rest of my teammate because obviously I let off the throttle coming out of Spoon. Didn't want to hit the back of the Red Bull, so I was able to just about, keep behind of him. I have kept DRS range to Smitty. I'm not going to go for the move. I'm 9/10 behind him onto lap 25. So that is it. It is me versus my teammate. Me versus Smitty for the win here at Suzuka. No one else will trouble us. Hungry Stars is still 2 seconds back. Jinna has closed a little bit, and Corey is not too far away in that Williams. Unfortunately, Jinna and Corey with 3-second penalties. So even if Corey was able to run up to the back of us, he would have a Herculean task to get through to us. So lap 25, it is going to be a Sauber winning this race, hopefully. But which one of us will it be? Will it be Smitty or will it be myself? We are going to head on to the penultimate lap to decide. I'm still in DRS range. Smitty did try and burn a bit. I'm still in DRS range, 6/10 behind my teammate, and it is going to be very, very close. This is what ALR is all about. It's about these last lap fights to the end. What can I do? What can Smitty do? Smitty hasn't won this season, obviously. I've won the first race, and then we had Mushroom winning last week in China. Who's going to take it? Can I get my second win out of 3, or will Smitty take his first win? Either way, we are looking at huge points for Sauber in the Constructors' Championship. If we are able to keep this 1-2 up, regardless of who finishes first, we will be able to take a very commanding lead in the Constructors' Championship as I come up to the back of Smitty Almighty. This is it. If I'm going to get past him, it has to be at the end of this lap. This is the last time we're going to have use of a full DRS zone. So I know that I have to stay behind him. It's a very similar situation to Rocket Lee in Australia in round 1. I have to stay behind him on this lap. No matter what he tries to pull, I have to stay behind him, because if I let him get DRS down into turn 1, I am done for. You can see he runs wide, doesn't really put the throttle down, and I'm sticking right behind him. I have a lot of battery. I'm in medium. I put it down to none. I don't want to pass him. I don't care. We have a bit of a gap to Styles. It's not quite the gap me and Lee had at round 1, but we have a bit of a gap to Styles. So I am down back up to medium. I have a full battery to play with now, and a lap and a quarter to play with it. Coming now down into 130R. Smitty's gone into none, which obviously means he knows that he wants me to overtake. I go down to none in response. I am not going to overtake him. I have the DRS, so now I know I have the advantage. I know psychologically it is down to me. I go a little bit wide into the chicane. Smitty goes a bit deep, so I get a good exit. I have a full battery to deploy, and I have DRS. It is only 2/10 as we cross the line in the slipstream on my teammate. If you can hear the party audio, I am saying sorry. I feel terrible for this, but I do what I have to do. It's round 3. If I want to win this championship at the moment, I have to take all the points I can get, and I do take the lead of the Japanese Grand Prix on the last lap. Not going to use none through Sector 1. The time for harvesting is over. There's no point giving Smitty any sniff of a chance, because if I do, then I might lose the lead of this race and lose the ultimate win. Coming through Sector 1. What does Smitty have? I'm thinking, what does he have in the storage? He probably has a fair amount of battery. We knew he saved a lot on the previous lap. Like me, he knew what I was doing. I knew what he was doing. Who is going to come out on top? There is one final overtaking chance. DRS won't play a factor, but the run to that final corner will. That final corner that has been the bane of my existence this entire race is going to decide who wins this race. I get a decent exit out the hairpin. The gap is 4/10. I put it up into overtake, put it into hot lap mode. I still have 60% battery. I have a lot to play with here, and this is where it's going to matter. Into Spoon. I can't afford to have a bad exit from Spoon. I can't afford to mess this corner up, and I don't. Critically, I have a good enough exit, and I'm immediately burning on exit into overtake, and it is a really strong there. So can I do it? Smitty's all over the back of me. Can I hold on to this win? The gap is closing. He's in the slipstream. He's down to 2/10. The gap is 2/10. Will it get within that striking range? Into the final corner we go, and I am still ahead. I slide through the final corner. I brake way too late, but it won't matter, because I come round the final corner to win in Suzuka.
Yeah, boy!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is 2 wins out of 3. What a way to end this race. What a race it was. I win, Smitty P2, Hungry Styles takes P3, and Winnie takes the fastest lap after pitting. But that's it. P1, 2 out of 3. What a way to win this race. What a fantastic race. A track that I said in my post-race interview after round 1, I said I'm not looking forward to China and I'm not looking forward to Japan. We've come out of those 2 races with a podium in China and a win in Japan. here are your championship standings for ALR Bronze, the World Drivers' Championship. There I am, leading it by a massive, massive lead. I could not race next week. Dan could win, or Dynamo Dan could win, and I would still be leading the championship. So really strong race from us so far. Really strong championship challenge. There is that massive constructors gap between ourselves and Williams. That 1-2 has really, really worked in our favour. Really, really happy with the current standings. Obviously, it's still a long way to go in this season, but that is a really, really good, strong sight. Now, round 4. Where will we be going? Now, this is going to be new to ALR Bronze. We are going to a mystery Grand Prix. It can either be Miami, Saudi Arabia, or Bahrain. We don't know where we're going. It's going to be exciting. So make sure you click like and subscribe down below. Tell me what I'm doing. Stick around because there's a long season in ALR to go. We lead the championship 2 wins out of 3. What more can we achieve?